What is good and what is up, y'all? It's your boy here, Jay, back, and I'm better than ever with another episode of Padres Banter. It's been a minute, y'all, since we have last chatted, but I'm back spitting some Padres game to you because the season is 2 days away. I cannot believe it that we are already here. Baseball is back, and I am so excited for the season to begin. So let's get right into it with a lot to talk about, all right here on Padres Banter. What's up, y'all, and welcome back. Man, it's been a long time coming, but I'm back spitting some Padres game on Padres Banter with you guys because we are just 2 days away from opening day 2026. I'm excited. I know you're excited. Baseball is back, and also Padres baseball is back with a new look, a new regime. I'm excited to see what this new regime has for us Padres fans because it was a disappointing end to last season and then a very big shock considering that Mike Schilt went ahead in his departure to retire, then come out of retirement and get hired by somebody else. It's been a whirlwind of an offseason. Not big splashes, but getting some good acquisitions for this roster and good fits for this roster. So I'm excited to see, just like every opening day, I'm excited to see what this Padres team has for us fans because, man, it's been a whirlwind, not just past offseason, but just a past couple of years. What this new regime and what this new team has to bring, I think is going to bring new life to this Padres team and fans, I hope. Because there's just been a lot of optimism in these past years that hasn't come into fruition about what we could possibly do and what we could potentially do and with the roster that we have. And I think that now this year, new regime, obviously not getting the big splashes that we always tend to get in the offseason. I think that this is a new plan, a new order to try and get this winning culture back into this Padres team. Now, we haven't been, bad in past couple of years. I'm not saying that. We have back-to-back 90-win seasons, but I think that the bad taste in the mouth left in the playoffs considering what we had as a roster, what we had potentially um, in front of us to be able to do both seasons, especially back in 2024. So I think that there's a lot of question of what this possible regime can bring. Obviously, success, but in the playoffs, what we can possibly do in the playoffs going forward, and hopefully being I know that Schilt was a player's coach, but being more of a foot down guy. I know that Stammen is a player very recently and will be a player's coach through and through. But I need some authoritarianism um, to be able to put your foot down and say some things when they need to be said in this clubhouse because the lack of leadership is the reason why the Padres continue to fail in the playoffs every single year. But like I said, guys, we're 2 days away from opening day. It's been a whirlwind for me personally. I wanted to get some episodes going as far as the offseason, but I'm here. I'm wanted to do it now, and let's get it going now. Why not? Then now. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and get it. Like I said, 2 days away until opening day, and there's so much to happen in the Padre world that we need to get into. And baseball is finally back. I can't believe it, guys. But it's been a while since we last chatted. A disappointing end to last season, but a new manager hopefully equals new vibes, and hopefully a fresh feeling in the clubhouse after the Cubs lost in the wild card series. It still lingers, guys. Personally, for me, it still lingers because of obviously losing in the wild card in the trajectory of this Padres team going from obviously NLCS to division and then losing in the wild card. It's not going in the right direction as we speak. But guys are getting their rhythm and coming back to spring training after their WBC performances have concluded. And with Venezuela taking out USA in that finals championship of the WBC, absolutely electric tournament that was the WBC. I'm so grateful to have been able to watch the WBC as a baseball fan, as someone who played baseball all my life. It was just you always dream of scenarios like that, of environments like that, to play for your country like that, and obviously this tournament being so young, it's starting to get the vibrancy of what it should feel like in a World Cup atmosphere. And this is the World Cup of baseball. If you ask me, this is the World Cup of baseball on a world stage. You don't have guys of this caliber. You don't have guys of you know um, these names all together on one team playing for one nation very often. And to have that, every 4 years now, they moved it to every 4 years instead of every 3 years. You're gonna see just the level of play continue to rise, and this was just a teaser of what is to come in future WBCs, because nations are only going to get better. Countries and players are only going to continue to want to play for their countries because of what they've seen on television. So now the best players are going to continue to come out, and obviously it's a little bit harder to find the best players across the world from specific countries, right? I think that there's great player, like soccer is a different comparison in the World Cup, because I think soccer is a world, and obviously, baseball is too, as a world sport, but not touching as many countries as soccer is. And soccer has a lot of great players around the world. Sorry for the hit right there on the mic, but there's great players across the globe, and you can find great players across the globe that are, you know, relatively up there when it comes to professional and how good they are right now. When you go to the Israel and you're playing in WBC, there's some guys, or you go to Nicaragua, or other places like, the Netherlands. There's guys that are, plumbers, the electricians, and it's just crazy to see that obviously they have jobs outside of playing professional baseball, because professional baseball in those countries isn't as big. But you get my point, right? It's that it brings that side of the story out, where you're having the best of the best play against electricians, and sometimes it's just cool to see that nature and that nuance, to be able to have guys that feel like they never really will get up to that level, but get into a national team and compete at the WBC level with some of the best of the best. I mean, for example, the Brazil team had, a top prospect in the high school rankings, but was playing for Brazil, right? Because his dad is, all right, that was someone else. That was Lucas Ramirez, that's Manny Ramirez's dad. But 17-year-old pitching for Brazil, top prospect out of, high school in Georgia, and he's pitching against Aaron Judge. And now he has to go back to his high school team, and he just faced Aaron. So you get my point, guys. It's just, the WBC is fantastic. It was an awesome tournament, and I can't wait for what the future holds with this tournament. But it's great to see our players and former players also competing in that tournament. Fernando had a great tournament. Xander obviously played with the Netherlands. Alec Jacob and Antonacci playing for, Italy, and Italy upsetting USA. Luis Arraez playing for Venezuela, obviously not being with our team anymore. Miller going ahead and pitching for Team USA. Manny playing for Dominican as well, having a great, those two backhanded plays. Just can't say enough. Can't say enough. And that's just also great competitive play early on, I think, for our players. And yeah, you don't want to test your bodies too much, but it's only 5 or 6 games that you're going to be going crazy, or going as hard as you can. And truthfully, for your nation, I wouldn't want to do it anywhere else. I obviously know you have a 162 game season around the corner, but playing with those guys is a once in a lifetime experience, and I think people are starting to realize that with that tournament. But like I said, I'm super excited to see Antonacci and Jacob continue their bright futures with us after pitching well with Italy and taking out the USA, like I had said. But all in all, baseball is back, guys, and we need to get into some things that had happened since we had last talked, because we have so much to get down with the transactions and the injury updates all right here. It's 2026, y'all, and the Padres season begins on March 26th, which is 2 days away, March 24th today, as we face off against the Detroit Tigers and Tariq Skubal and company. Nick Pivetta will be the opening day starter for us, was announced that yesterday, so congratulations to Nick getting the opening day start. Past couple of years has been Michael King. That's fine, but we got Pivetta out here, hopefully going to, shove as he usually does in that competitive spirit that he brings on the mound. Solid series to start off the year, though, guys. But a bunch of new names on our team that we have to get into. No major splashes like I had mentioned earlier, rather players with a better fit for our roster. Obviously, we had some departures in O'Hearn and obviously Arraez. I think, we got some good additions and good fits in that sense with those additions. At first, to be able to fill in for Arraez, because obviously you're not going to replace Arraez or place a batter in that lineup. But to be able to get some guys to be able to try and fill into that scenario and Arraez's shoes, I think is big time for us. Like I said, not major big splashes, but let's get right into it. The additions of Sung Moon Song. Obviously, I made a podcast earlier in the offseason about that. It's a big addition. He's going to be floating around, but is going to be starting the year on the IL, but not for an extended period of time, as they say. So looking out for that, making sure that it won't be more than 17 days for for Song, but he will be floating around from second to third and even first right now. The depth chart says that he might even get in at first base. We will see, but we also got Miguel Andujar, who's going to also be floating around from the infield and outfield as a utility piece, so that's big time, as well as a DH. Who knows? Griffin Canning is another great veteran pitcher that we went ahead and picked up. And I think that, whether he's going to be in the bullpen for us or whether he's going to float in at that last starting position. I know we have German Marquez right now filled in as that last starting position for our rotation, but Griffin Canning can float into there or go back into the bullpen, as well as Walker Buehler making the team. Obviously, Griffin Canning, I had said, will probably float in and out from, AAA to our team, but Walker Buehler going ahead and making the roster and will be a bona fide, I think, starter for us, whether it's the third or fourth slot. Obviously, like I said, German Marquez will be right behind him, but Buehler having a fantastic spring and showing us, obviously, what he can do. And obviously, we faced against him when he was on the Dodgers, but last year being with the Phillies and as well with Boston, he didn't really have, anything clicking. He didn't really have a rhythm going, and I feel like teams gave up on him really quick after his obvious injury in 2022 with his Tommy John. But coming back from that, he's been really, upping his velocity and really showing the command, and obviously this spring, past 2 years haven't been too great to him, but this spring has been very promising, and I hope that he continues to do work with Ruben Niebla and be a bona fide starter for us in that third slot. Like I said, German Marquez was another pickup that we got. German also having a fantastic spring and is a great, back end starter, I think, for this rotation. You could possibly see Tristan McKenzie or other guys float in and take that last rotation position. But at the end of the day, right now, it's German Marquez, and we'll see what he can do coming over from Colorado. He was their top pitcher over there in Colorado, top 2, top 3 in the rotation. We have faced him a fair amount of times, so we know what he's capable of, but I'm just hoping, just like Walker Buehler, that, being with Ruben Niebla will pay dividends and obviously will help German Marquez in the future. And obviously getting Nick Castellanos, he'll be floating in with left field, DH, and as well as first base. He was working there this spring, but we'll see what he can do at first base. It's obviously not very promising. He doesn't play there a whole lot, so I would consider him to be more of an outfield as well as a DH rotation piece. And also adding back Joe Musgrove to the rotation will definitely keep our eye on and him as well, because he is going to be starting the season on the IL as well. Apparently nowhere near a return for Joe Musgrove, but at the end of the day, we want to continue to see the progression and no rush because of the additions that we have made at the starting pitching position as well in the bullpen. So I don't think it's a must for him to come back into the rotation right now. We want Joe to be 100%, right? We don't want a half Joe Musgrove, and obviously a half Joe Musgrove is better than half the league, but I think that having a full Joe Musgrove when we need him is pivotal, because I just have a feeling, just like every year, when we get towards All-Star break, we're going to have some pitchers, have some arm problems. It just happens every single time, right? I'm not banking on it. I'm not hoping that happens, but that is just inevitable as far as guys getting tired, guys maybe having injuries going into the All-Star break. Joe Musgrove coming around that time would be perfect in no rush, to come back. So I think that would be a great addition into that rotation later on, maybe June or July. Like I said, he has no rush to come back, but also is nowhere near a return right now. So like I said, no rush with that. As well as Jason Adam. He will start this season on the IL and won't return till April 6th. So that will be fine as well. Just need everyone to be healthy at some point, and there's no rush as well. We got more home back there. We got, Jacob who can float in there as well. We got obviously Miller. We got, Estrada. So we got some pieces on the back end of that bullpen that, it doesn't necessarily need to be a dire situation for Jason Adam to come back. It would be great for him to start the season on our, bullpen. But at the end of the day, we want him 100% healthy, just like we want Joe Musgrove 100% healthy. Song will also start the season, like I had mentioned, on the IL, but not extended period of time with that right oblique. But he should be okay. But I'm excited, guys. I'm excited to see these fits, especially the questions of where everyone will play. But it could be interesting seeing Stammen mix up the lineups and having several play in different positions, like Andujar, obviously playing DH, but filling in for left field, filling in at, second base, first base, third base if Manny and Song are obviously not going to be playing at that point in time. Castellanos, obviously, DH, left field. I don't think he'll be playing a lot of first base, but we will see because we also have Sheets and France at first base. Ty France making the team. Congratulations back on the Padres. They'll be both floating in at first base, and maybe there's a day that both of them need a day off, and one of them's playing DH. Castellanos can fill in at first base, or maybe Song can fill in at first base because Song has very big versatility with going to third, going to short, going to second, and even first. He can play all around the infield. So I'm excited to see, guys, what, towards the middle of the season, what our lineups are going to look like. I hope that, he mixes it up a little bit more than Mike Schilt did because, truthfully, there was points in time where we weren't mixing up anything. We were continuing to put guys in the five hole, guys in the leadoff spot when realistically it wasn't working and it's time to mix things up. And I know you want to stick to your guns, but I really hope that Stammen can have that, player mindset of like, maybe this isn't working, let's mix it up. And I know that it's probably not sticking to my guns, but I need to go ahead and do something different because as it stands right now, we're not doing anything good. So I hope that he mixes it up because truthfully, we need change. We need change, guys. Maybe putting Nando at the top, maybe putting Manny at the 3, 4. I don't know. Merrill at the 2, Merrill at the 1. I don't know. Mix it up. Do something different, please, because right now, as it stands, so we need to get things going immediately when it comes to competing in this NL West. We've got a lot of great teams in this division, especially with the Giants. The Giants making a ton of additions this season and obviously have some optimism going on up there in the Bay Area. Dodgers coming off of back-to-back, World Series championships, and then they got the Diamondbacks, who obviously are coming with vengeance and coming for that success that they had 2 years ago. And then obviously we can't forget about the Colorado Rockies, but we'll see what happens with them because they continue to be the worst team in baseball every single year. But like I said, with the additions of these guys and Castellanos as well as Verdugo, who's on a minor league contract, we'll see if Alex Verdugo floats up to the major leagues and makes the roster for a couple games and shows his worth, in the outfield, because sometimes we need some veteran depth in the outfield, as well as Ty France. But these veteran bats are great additions. Like, they're not upper scale additions money wise, but it's what the Padres are looking for in a roster fit. And I think that these are exactly what we need. We don't need big splashes. We don't need guys taking more money, especially with the contracts that we have been given out in the past 4 or 5 years. But I would also love to see Tirso Ornelas get another shot up and produce as well with us from the minor leagues. And he's been tearing it up, obviously, in AAA El Paso. Coming up and hopefully taking a left field spot because right now it's really up for grabs. There's Andujar, there's Castellanos, there's several guys that can go out there right now and play Bryce Johnson even, but who is going to take that spot? Bryce Johnson had a great spring too, so I would love to see somebody really just go out there and take the spot like Jurickson did a couple of years ago and see what we can do in the outfield because right now we got 2 spots that are kind of solidified with Merrill and Fernando. If we can be able to get that third outfielder solidified, that would be great. Obviously, we got Ramon coming back, but how healthy will he be? Will he have a successful year this year as well? But I want to see somebody take it. Ramon, it's Ramon's spot right now. Like I was obviously lamenting towards Castellanos and Andujar and but those were as far as our additions that could possibly go out there into left field because right now it's up in the air. I know that for a lot of people it's Ramon Laureano's spot, and for me personally it is right now as well. But I'm interested to see with all the additions that we had made, a lot of guys can float in different positions, and a lot of things can happen in 162 games. We have a great roster, I think, when it comes to fit, and I think that it is a lot of upside. So I'm excited to see what happens because there's a lot of things that we can do with a lot of the different guys. So I'm very excited, but this rotation is also still up for question. But I think these pitchers in the starting rotation are going to make themselves known and who will be in the rotation. We obviously got Pivetta starting on Thursday, and then we got King and Vasquez that are bona fide 3 right now. And then obviously Marquez and Buehler are the back 2 and then when Joe Musgrove comes back, that will be another option for us to put into our rotation. But we also might bring up McKenzie, right? We added Tristan McKenzie to a minor league deal, so maybe he can possibly come up to the major league level and give us a couple great games or even be our back end starter. David Morgan, obviously having a couple great starts last season in upper 90s fastball. Captain Morgan would be another great option, or even Matt Waldron if he can stay healthy to start some games as well. But as of right now, if Joe comes back, that's his position. So as it stands right now, we got Pivetta, King, Vasquez, Marquez, Buehler, and Musgrove, and then we'll see how it kind of fluctuates with that back end piece. But I'm excited, guys. There's a lot of great fit, a lot of great additions to this team. And I think that we have a lot of upside to look forward to when it comes to this roster. I think that there's a lot of great, like I said, fit, not a great big splashes that you would be like, oh, wow, the Padres are going to go ahead and win the World Series now. Like, because when something happens, that's what a lot of people say. But anyways, I just think that there's a lot of great fit pieces, not sexy, but we're going to get the job done and we're going to have play gritty baseball. And I think that Craig Stammen is going to instill a great culture, hopefully, into this roster, and knowing that we're gonna win baseball games here. That's what we came to do. So 162 games, there's a lot going to happen. There's going to be injuries, and that's why we made the additions that we did. Not splashy, but go ahead and gritty additions. I'm excited to see how this team plays. This team looks like a team. This team looks like they're having fun. And then hopefully we can see the great, addition of maybe Ethan Salas here in the future. Not this year, but maybe, next year, depending on how the catcher position is right now. We're obviously locked down with Freddie Fermin and Luis Campusano, but we'll see how Camp can do this year. I'm really rooting for Camp to have a great year. I really want him to have some success at the major league level, absolutely tearing it up last season in AAA. Like the home run leader, having like freaking, he's gonna have a statue out there in AAA El Paso. But the thing is he can't translate it to the MLB game. We gave him some at bats last year. I think he went like 0 for 10. But he just really needs to just instill confidence in himself and go out there and do it. I know everybody knows that he can do it. I think he just needs to, alleviate the pressure, whatever that is, alleviate off of his shoulders and go out there and just hit the baseball. Let's not trying to overcomplicate things. Just hit the baseball. And I know it's major league level, and I know that obviously there's a difference between major league and AAA. But when you're doing what you're doing at the AAA level, there's no way that you can't at least make some adjustments and try to just make contact with the baseball. He was making any contact last year. Now, the year prior, when he got an opportunity to be the starting catcher, there was obviously more of the contact and that nature. But last year, when he only got 8 opportunities because we had, a couple catchers already up on our team, and we just were feeling it out to see if he can get a couple at bats and see where he's at. Didn't do it. And we kind of just let him rest in AAA for the rest of the season and figure it out. And he did. He hit a lot of home runs. So I'm really rooting for Camp this season. But if that doesn't work out, we obviously got Ethan coming up, who hopefully has a great year in the minors this year, and then we can hopefully see him in the foreseeable future, because we really do need some bona fide catching position. But right now, Freddie's doing a great job for me, and hoping that he can translate what he was doing in the postseason into this season. But I'm excited, guys. There's a lot of upside of what we got going this year, a lot of question marks of what could possibly be the lineup for this team. But let's do that next episode, as I'll get into that, as what the possible lineup will be and potential lineup, as well as some games to look forward to, because right now we got the Detroit Tigers 4-game series this weekend, and then we'll get into the rest of the season, guys. But I'm excited, man. Padres baseball is back. Baseball is back. I'm excited, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Padres Banter. We are back with this opening day, only 2 days away, y'all. But before opening day, I will be getting another episode in, talking about the lineup and more things. All Padres Banter, all right here on Padres Banter. We out.